Today we're going to set the camera wobbling a little bit because I'm going to be talking about Boogie-Woogie. Now it's several years since I made a tutorial on Boogie and I want to come back to it for a couple of reasons. First of all, Boogie is just kind of incredibly satisfying and fun to play and not actually that difficult if you put in a little bit of practice. Secondly, it is really good for you. It's great for your hand independence and it's great for your timing and several other piano playing skills, and they're skills that you can take from Boogie-Woogie and apply to lots of other different types of piano playing. Yeah, so it will really help you to sharpen up your skills. So what we're going to do in the tutorial is look at 3 or 4 left hand patterns you can use and then a bunch of right hand licks that you can put over those patterns in a couple of keys so you can begin to put together your own Boogie-Woogie improvisations. I should say that I've put together a PDF in which I've scored out the left hand patterns and some of the licks that we're using, so if you're a music reader you should be able to make use of that. If you look in the description text right underneath this video on its YouTube watch page, you will find a link to that PDF there. You don't have to sign up or pay anything, it's just completely free, it's just a Google Drive link. So grab a copy of that PDF and let's get going. Just before we get started, I want to tell you about a couple of great offers I think you'll be interested in. First of all, I've got a bundle deal running on the digital editions of my 3 current books: How to Really Play the Piano, the stuff your teacher never taught you, An Introduction to Cocktail Piano, and 7 Studies in Pop Piano. If you're just getting into Boogie-Woogie and 12-bar improvisation in general, then How to Really Play the Piano especially is going to be really useful for you because it approaches the whole subject of piano improvisation through the medium of 12-bar, blues, boogie, that kind of thing. Now right now you can get all 3 of those ebooks for £18.95, which is a 30% saving compared to what you pay if you bought them separately. To find out more, head over to billspianopages.com/bundle. Second thing I want to mention is my Patreon crowdfunding page over at patreon.com/BillHilton. It costs very little to support me on Patreon and you get a ton of great benefits. We have a really good community on Patreon. You get priority access to me personally if you have particular questions or you need help with your piano learning. Plus you get access to my piano packs. Each piano pack is a booklet of kind of a dozen pages with lots of exercises, original pieces to learn, with a full walkthrough video. And those piano packs cover a range of different styles, from jazz through to stride, through to pop, all kinds of different approaches to playing the piano, and so far they are proving really popular. So if you want to check out my Patreon page, head over to patreon.com/BillHilton. Okay, that's enough for the advertising, let's get on with the tutorial. Now all of the Boogie-Woogie that we're going to play today, we're going to play using a 12-bar blues chord progression. Now 12-bar is the most common type of progression used for Boogie-Woogie piano, but it's by no means the only one. Okay, it's important to know that, but today we're just going to stick to 12-bar to keep it simple. If you're really familiar with 12-bar already, and as you may know there are different types of 12-bar, but we'll come on to that in a moment. If you're already familiar with 12-bar, then skip on forward to the next section of the video. If you look at the red progress bar at the bottom of this video screen, then you'll see that I've divided the tutorial up into chapters using the YouTube chapters function. So just skip on forward to the next chapter in the video. But if you're a bit shaky about 12-bar or it's not something you've come across before, then just stick with me for 2 or 3 minutes while I take you through the basics. They're actually really simple. So here's the 12-bar blues progression that we're going to be using today. Like I said, it's not the only one. You can get much more complicated 12-bar progressions than this, but this is really the most simple type and probably the most commonly used type in Boogie, to be honest. As you can see, it's 12 bars long, 12 measures long, that's how it gets the name, and it uses 3 different chords, C, F and G. We're in the key of C major, so that is the number 1, the number 4 and the number 5 chords, the tonic, subdominant and dominant chords in the key of C major. When we actually start playing, we might really play around with those chords. C might end up being like that, or being like that, and F might end up being an F9 or something like that, but for now we're just going to consider the bare bones chords. What I'm going to do, just to give you a feel for it, is play through the progression, not as a full Boogie-Woogie, but just in a slowish blues style so you can get a sense of the structure, okay? And this is also going to be an exercise you can use just to get the 12-bar under your fingers if you're not familiar with it, okay? Let's just play it through now. Here we go. I'll name the bars, name the measures as I go, starting with a measure of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, all C major, bar 5 we've got an F chord, same in bar 6, bar 7 back to C, and bar 8. Bar 9 is G, bar 10 is F, bar 11 is C, and so is bar 12. But you'll see that I've put the C in bar 12 in brackets, okay, and that's because I want to indicate that is a possible turnaround bar, okay. If we're right at the end of the performance, then we would indeed play a C chord to wind things up, or actually we'd probably do something really fancy, you know, we'd probably play an extended chord to make it sound cool and bluesy, but we would finish on some type of C chord. However, in any performance of a 12-bar blues, we're probably going to play through the progression multiple times. And in every instance of the progression but the final one, in that 12th bar, we will play something else, something other than a C chord, in order to take us back to the start of the progression. For example, we might play a G chord. So let's go from bar 9, bar 9, bar 10, bar 11, bar 12, and that takes us back to the start of the progression. It's very often you would play a simple, very rare you would play a simple G chord like that. You would usually do something like this, going from bar 10 again, bar 11, bar 12. This is a really cliche one. Okay, just a bouncy G in the bass, or you can do things like, yeah, there are loads of different turnarounds that we can use there, but we'll mention those again in a few minutes. Like I said, if you're really new to 12-bar blues, have a go at playing just what I was playing there with that really simple left hand. Okay, it's dead simple. You can probably see what I'm doing there. There it is on the C chord, there it is on the F chord, and on the G chord, and back on the F chord, and back to the C chord. And just try putting in some basic chords, C's, F's and G's in the right hand, just to get a feeling for how it works. You might also like to try it in another key. Okay, let's look at it in F major. Once again, you'll find it scored out in F major in the accompanying PDF. Let's just play through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4. Okay, when you're doing it in F, and it's really worth getting used to doing it in different keys, when you're doing it in F, just watch out for your pinky, watch out for your fifth finger on that B flat. You know, I played it there and I played it down there. It doesn't matter where you play it really, but it's just a little bit easier to slip off there. Okay, so if 12-bar blues is new to you, just get to grips with it, just practice it. I mean, by all means, go ahead and watch the rest of the video and pick up some of the fun stuff we're doing, but alongside doing all that, really kind of begin to get a feel for how 12-bar works and try to make the habit of keeping that moving left hand, you know, kind of automatic if you like, because that is going to be really important. So now let's have a look at some left-hand boogie patterns that you can use. Once we've been through a few of those, I'll show you some right-hand licks you can add over the top. This very first one is quite simple, and if you've just watched that little section I did a moment or two ago on 12-bar blues, you'll find it's really familiar because it was the one I was using to demonstrate things there. We're just going to take it a little bit faster this time. Here we go. It's a really, really simple pattern. Here it is on a C chord. You can see that I've got the root of the chord with my fifth finger, with my pinky down there, and then I'm alternating the notes a fifth and a sixth above the root using second and thumb. So it's G and A in the case of C. For the F chord, it will be like this. That F down the bottom with my fifth, alternating C and D, and for the G chord, G down the bottom, alternating D and E. So to start with, just kind of get comfortable with that, playing that in a 12-bar pattern, okay, using the 12-bar pattern that we've got in the PDF there. If you want to put a little bit of a simple right hand over the top of it, I'll just show you how to do that now, just using 3 chord shapes. That's your first chord shape. That's an either you could call it a C6 or an A minor 7, probably a C6 in this context. That's the second one. So it's nearly the same, except we're dropping that E down to an E flat. That's kind of a rootless F9. And for a third one, you can use that, which is kind of a G7 sus, I guess. Let me show you how that would work if we were playing that left hand as a 12 bar. Something like this. Yeah, pretty straightforward, just stabby chords in the right and that moving left hand down there. If you're really new to this, you're going to find it useful to go through that left hand by itself quite a few times first, maybe against a metronome if you want to, just to keep yourself in time. But then as you get confident with it, maybe just start to add in some jabby chords in the right hand. Okay, the second left hand I want to look at is based on the first one, but it's a little bit trickier. Not trickier to play exactly, but certainly trickier to put a right hand against. Let me just demonstrate it. It kind of straddles the boundary between blues and boogie-woogie. Here we go. Can you see what's going on there? The piano is probably rocking back and forth. It's probably really noisy, but hopefully you get the idea. It's exactly the same pattern of notes, but instead of just doing that, very basically, we're kind of bouncing instead and putting a bit more of a rhythm on it. Let's do it on F as well. You have to be a little bit quicker to move because it's moving quickly itself. So especially when you do the jump from the C to the G. That's a little bit of a snatch, takes a little bit of practice. Once again, you can try it against that very simple chordal left hand if you like. So on. Again, you will find, although it doesn't look much more difficult to play, getting the coordination between right and left is just a little bit more challenging. Next up we have a different movement altogether. This one's a bit more kind of rocky. The past two we've looked at were more at the swingy end of the spectrum, but this one has more of a rocking feel. Boogie can kind of go either way. Here we go. Okay, can you see what's going on there? I've just got fifth and thumb on the C and G for the G chord, and then I'm also playing the E flat with my third and the E natural with my second in this pattern. And you can also play that across the other chord shapes. Let me do that again, once again putting in this simple right hand. Yeah, you should find that actually a little, although there seems to be more movement, you should find that a little bit easier than the, okay, which for some reason seems to take more effort. One thing you will find with this one, I hope that as you practice these you will transpose them into different keys, especially into F. You'll find that this pattern is a little bit trickier to do in F, especially when you get to the B flat chord. Because your third and your second have to be well up into the keys there, so just be aware of that. With a little practice you can sort it out, but it's just a possible problem you might want to watch out for before you trip over it. Our next left hand is really just a development of the one we've just been looking at. It goes like this. As you can see, we're still using C, G, E flat and E, just like we were last time when we were doing this. But this time, rather than hitting the C and the G together, we're playing all the notes singly and we're adding an A at the top of the pattern, like this. C, C, E flat, E, G, G, A, G. Okay, so our second finger is going over the thumb and hitting the A there. C, C, E flat, E, G, G, A, G. If you're playing in C, then you should find that that pattern transfers really easily to the other chords in the progression. Here it is on F, and here it is on a G chord. You'll find that things get a little bit trickier when you move into the key of F major, once again because of this B flat position. It's doable, but it's a lot less secure, okay? There's a risk that your fifth finger is going to slip off the B flat, and especially when you are moving between positions, between chords, you're much more likely to crash or trip up, yeah? So practice it very carefully in F. This is one of the reasons that I'm asking you to do this in F as well, to challenge yourself on that B flat chord. When you've got comfortable with it, stick in some basic chords in the right hand. Okay, so much for your left hand. That was nothing like a full inventory of the possible boogie-woogie left hands you can use, but it's some really kind of flexible and useful ones that you should be able to master quickly. Once you've got the hang of those, and especially once you've got the hang of playing those with your right hand, you can move on to some of the other boogie-woogie left hands. So like, you know, the all-time classic, which of course you can double up. But those two are actually quite difficult. That one looks straightforward, but the jumping between chords is quite challenging, yeah? So those are maybe left hands for another tutorial. What I would do first is use the left hands we've looked at so far, which aren't necessarily easy, but they don't have too many elephant traps, if you see what I mean. You should be able to practice them up quite quickly and gradually work on building in some interesting right hand variety before you move on to more complex left hands. On the subject of right hands, let's look at some licks we can use in our right hand. So far we've just been doing kind of stabby chords, but there's much more interesting stuff we can do in the right without too much extra effort. Okay, so what I'm going to do is teach you the set of licks that I usually teach to people who are just starting out with blues and boogie piano, because they're quite straightforward, but they are a lot of fun. By the way, if you've got my book, How to Really Play the Piano, you might find some of these familiar, because I do use them in the improvisation chapter of that book to kind of introduce you to right hand licks. If you don't have the book, don't forget that you can get the ebook version of it right now as part of my 3-book bundle deal, and check out the description text below for a link to that. Now anyway, the brilliant thing about this set of licks is that they don't move hand position, yeah? So you can keep your hand in the same place on the piano keyboard, whatever your left hand is doing, wherever your left hand is in the blues progression. We're going to look at it, we're going to look at them in the key of C, but once you're kind of comfortable with them, I want you to try transposing them into F, okay? Because that would be really good practice for you. We're also going to look at them in this octave, in the middle of the piano, but often you will find yourself wanting to play them up here, yeah? I'm just doing them here so we're nicely in the center of shot. Okay, so the notes we're going to be using are the notes of the basic C major chord in root position, C, E, G, and another C at the top, and then 3 notes from the C blues scale: E flat or D sharp, G flat or F sharp, B flat or A sharp. Usually in the context of C, that one we would call E flat, that one we would call B flat, that one we kind of split the difference. Usually I would call it F sharp, but you know, G flat, whatever. Those are the 3 notes. Let me show you what we can do when we combine those 3 notes with those 4. Yeah, this is the kind of effect we're after. Did you see what I'm doing there? Often I'm playing more than one note at once, so I'm combining the G and the C there, and I'm kind of pivoting off the root down the bottom here. It's a very rhythmic effect, it's a very percussive effect, and that's what licks are all about a lot of the time. Yes, the notes are important, but the kind of attack, the punchiness of them really, really matters. Also, I've got some grace notes going on, and I'm playing them as crush notes, okay? So a grace note is when you've got that tiny little bit of note right before the main note, there, and I'm playing it as a crush note because I'm just using one finger to slide from one to another. If you've had classical lessons, you'll know that when you play grace notes, you're supposed to use separate fingers, okay? And if we were playing white note to black note here, we would have to use separate fingers, but because we're going black to white, we can crush, and that's always a really kind of cool effect. I just think it looks cool. Yeah? So have a little go at that, and then you could try putting it over something in the left. I'll just put a really simple left hand in and show you what you can do. Just watch and listen to what's happening here. Okay, a few bits and pieces to notice there. Firstly, did you see how I was kind of varying things? Little bits of repetition, little bits of playing around. Also, a really important harmonic thing. When I had the F and G chord happening in the left hand because they were there in the progression, I stayed off that E natural. Okay, I just stuck on the E flat. So when I had the C chord in the bass, I was happy to go straight down onto the E flat. With the F in the bass, okay, I stayed off the E flat. I could have gone to it, but it would have created a more kind of mellow sound. Yeah, and I want quite a kind of hard edge, bluesy, boogie-ish sound here. Back comes C again, and I'm happy with the E natural. On the G chord, let's play G chord there. Some people might say, hold on, you're playing a C in the right hand there and C's not in the G chord. Don't worry about it, it's not really noticeable, okay? So I'm really kind of playing around, thinking about the harmonies I can create, thinking about the interesting stuff that I can do there. What I suggest you do if you are really new to this is just play around with that pattern and see what you can do. Practice the crush notes, practice the rhythms, and then maybe put them against a very simple left hand. Once you get confident, you can start to do other things, and we can start to use this B flat. There you go, that was the first ever blues riff I learnt when I was 12. Okay, and again you should find that that works fine. Okay, I'm getting carried away there. Did you see I was letting that E natural creep in just a little bit more against the F and the G there, just to give you a sense of what that's like? Okay, so once again, all of that stuff is just using that simple kind of single position. Yeah, I'm not having to move my hand around. Whatever's going on in the left, that's a little bit of a tricky movement. But whatever is happening in the left, I'm still in this position. If you want to venture past that, you can do what I did at the end and start coming down here, and then you're into the territory of messing around with the blues scale, with doing all kinds of other stuff. But that's kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial. What I will do is add some other resources, some other tutorials, links to other tutorials in the description text underneath this one, so if you want to explore further, you can do. What I want you to start doing for now though is just to practice kind of playing around with that kind of set of licks in the right hand, seeing what you can do, exploring. Yes, transpose it into F, try this stuff in F, but then beginning to put it over a left hand, ultimately so you can start to really kind of play around with the more complex left hand. Once you can do that, then start exploring some of the other resources I've got below. Okay, so start working on that. You've got quite a toolkit of things to play around with there. You will find that Some of the things, especially that look relatively easy, are maybe a bit more challenging than you think. Yeah, they should be well within your abilities, even if you're a relatively new piano player, but they take a little bit of kind of practicing, of kind of getting under your fingers. It's quite frustrating to start with, but stick at it because you will get it before long. And that process, by the way, is one of the reasons that Boogie-Woogie is so good for you as a piano player. It really forces your two hands to work together. It's brilliant for hand independence. It's brilliant for your kind of control on the piano keyboard. If you have any questions or problems, stick a comment in the comment thread. I'm always happy to help when I can. If you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the little red subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner, and of course don't forget to follow me on social media. Facebook, Twitter and Instagram links are below. Check out that special offer, the 3-in-1 bundle deal on my 3 books for £18.95, because I think that's a fantastic deal. billspianopages.com/bundle is the address for that. And like I said, if you want to support me on Patreon, fantastic benefits to be had as a Patreon supporter, including access to my piano packs. Head over to patreon.com/BillHilton to find out more. Okay, happy boogie-woogieing. Let me know how you get on, and I'll see you next time.